So the kids these days. On air, online on the KTAR News app, and the kids these days, Gen Zers, according to the latest survey, which is in stark contrast to the last survey, which is why these surveys you have to take with a bit of grain of salt. They said they made $70,000. Boys said, if I make $70,000, I'm financially successful. Mm-hmm. Women said, if I make $58,000, I'm successful.
They were more realistic.
The girls?
Yeah. Yeah, they've lowered their expectations. Do you remember that skit? Lowered expectations.
I do, yeah. I know that very well from Mad TV, actually. I
thought it was a Saturday Night Live skit.
Don't be. I will bet you on this one. Everybody knows it was Mad TV.
Huh. Yes.
Where were we?
We're lowering our expectations.
Yes, you say the women somehow have more realistic expectations by simply lowering the bar. Mm-hmm. I say they're less aspirational.
Oh,
yeah.
So you turn this into a slight on them, whereas I'm actually giving them a compliment where they understand that they're not going to be able to make $100,000 right off the bat. Any way
you slice it, it's not enough to achieve average or median, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Median home payments, $26,000 a year. Median car payments, $7,700 a year. Median grocery prices, $6,600 a year. Median utilities, same thing, $6,600 a year. You're not going to do that on your $58,000 or $70,000. And if you combine as a family, you might be able to get by with your median lifestyle. That's fine. It's going to be tough, though, to save money to set it aside. It's going to be tough to squirrel away an extra 10% to put into retirement or 6% with matching from the employer, whatever. It's going to be tough to plan for emergencies. It's going to be tough to save up for your down payment. So, we asked the question, why is it that their view of financial success is so disconnected from their view of, their life goals?
Yeah, and is this actually being taught in schools now, too? Because you got a little bit of it growing up. Whereas
we have that.
I got none of it, and most people around the office said that they had no clue what things cost or what to hope for in a salary as they were getting older and aging out of school.
Let's start in Queen Creek. Patrick is there. And Patrick, did you have, first of all, where'd you go to school? And did you have the option to take some financial literacy stuff in school?
Not at all. I went to school in the East Valley back in the 90s, and it just was not an option.
What about now, Patrick?
So I'm really excited. I made all the mistakes that I'm in my late 40s and just a lot of financial mistakes. And I subscribe to the Dave Ramsey stuff now. And
yeah.
It's cool because that kind of stuff, at least at my kids' high school, is being taught to where they're required to take part of the curriculum. And it's a charter school, but they're required as part of the curriculum to do an entrepreneurial course. And they have to do it in 2 semesters.
Oh, okay. So we really spread that out. I love that. I'm a big fan of that. By the way, when it comes to the Dave Ramsey stuff, and I don't want to badmouth another host on the station. That's not my intention. But, he gives some very specifics about how to achieve these different goals, which I think is absolutely essential. But one of the things that I took away from it, tell me if you get this too, Patrick, because we did a pseudo Dave Ramsey, which of course Dave says don't do it that way, but we did it. But because what I took away was the broader idea that it's about cutting back. Mm-hmm. It's about restraining yourself a little bit.
Budgeting.
And it's about discipline. Not just the budgeting, but it's about discipline. And it's about going without.
So leaving within your means and then maybe cutting back even a little bit more.
And not even worrying about keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. Is that what you got from it, Patrick?
100%. I'm Dave Ramsey-ish, so I definitely put my own flavor to it all. Okay. But again, I'm benefited with a wife that works in the retirement industry, and so she was able to, again, after we corrected the errors of our ways, she was able to push this stuff onto our kids. I've got a daughter that, just graduated college last month, and she's in the nursing field, but she gratefully had full ride tuition scholarships, and she actually graduated school with money in the bank and money in an investment account. And my youngest kid, who is graduating this year, jumps in my truck one day and he's all, we're learning about, you can buy 500 of the best companies. And I'm like, are you talking about an index 500? And he's all, yeah. And so my wife got him into a custodial retirement account when he was 15 or 16 years old. Wow. So he's been watching compound interest for a couple years now. And so if our schools can shift this way and the mentality is, graduate high school with such a huge financial and career-driven path, then these kids at 22, whether they're going to trade school or whether they're going to typical college, you can be in such a better position now, and I'm excited for it if it can grow.
Man, you're not kidding. They have
a crucial life skill.
Such a head start on so many other people. Beth in Chandler. Beth, tell me about your experience with schooling. Did they teach financial literacy when you were a youngster?
Absolutely not.
Huh. Did you go to school locally here, or did you go elsewhere?
No, I went to school in California.
Okay.
And I'm older. I'm in my early 60s. So there was nothing. But my parents were divorced, and my parents had us go to work at age 16. So I just had, I guess, common sense. I opened my bank account. We had to pay for our own cars, our gas, our clothing, all that kind of stuff had to come out of partially what we got for child support and partially what we earned.
Yeah.
And then I supported myself through college. I did take out one small loan because I went to cosmetology school. But when I went to college, I just got grants. But it basically, I lived within my means. Like, I had to move in with my grandma. I ended up having to live with my grandma for 5 years to finish school and get my first job. It was really hard to get a job right out of college. I didn't have a lot of extra other experience because I cleaned houses. So
okay.
I didn't really start making money until my 40s.
Yeah, but it sounds like you had the wherewithal, Beth. Thank you for the call. I appreciate that. It sounds like you had the wherewithal to restrain yourself. That's why I say I think the big one was restraint.
She mentioned living within her means, too. I think that's the key right there. And these days, a lot of people don't seem to know what their means are and how to live within them.
And I'm going to say that started with my generation. We were the generation now, right? We wanted everything now.
But the
Gen Xers did.
I also think our parents wanted to make sure to provide for us. And in some ways, they might have actually put us behind the 8 ball because they wanted things to be easier for us, and we didn't learn some of the skills.
You know, I think the other thing, to your point, I think our parents, it did come to them faster because things were cheaper, right, back then. And then they get more expensive. And every generation's a little more expensive, which is part of the generational bias that actually is starting to hurt the workplace. Not only do we have shifts in how do we approach work, we also have shifts in an understanding of the world around us. And I was reading an article that Fast Company had that was talking about the differences and how some of the older generations have real trouble understanding the younger generations. And here's from what they're saying. Gen Zs and millennials are redefining the workplace with their unique perspectives and values, compelling employers to adapt to stay competitive. Instead of closing off, it's critical for all generations to listen with empathy, remain open, not judge. Okay, duh. Doesn't that come with anybody? Isn't that what having different voices in the workplace are all about, regardless of generation? Because there are people within my generation that have a completely different upbringing than I do, completely different outlook, completely different perspective, right? There were some people that were born on third base, and there were some people that were born in the dugout, you know, couldn't even get up to bat. So there's a huge amount of difference. The thing is, and this is something our company pushes really hard, which I appreciate, they talk about grace for other people, understanding other perspectives, and then offering grace. But I would say this, for those of us in the older generations, whether you're a boomer or an X or a geezer millennial like Joe, I think it's incumbent upon us to extend that grace first and lead by example. Because the younger generations don't have any experience. They don't know how. They don't know how important it is to try to understand others. And so if you're able to understand them and be inquisitive and ask those and share those things, it may spawn a conversation where suddenly you're able to bestow upon them some of your own experiences, and they are more able to see the world not through your eyes, but how you see the world through your own eyes. Instead of trying to apply your prism to somebody else's life, it's, I think, more important to apply the idea that their life is different. I think that's how you fix the workplace issues anyway. That's how we do it. That, we just tell millennials, shut up, you're lazy, go to work. Right?
That's what you do with me all the time, too, not just millennials.
It's not working.
No, I
not
work
working
every day.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.